I promise you this is not rage bait, even though I know I'm going to tick off a large chunk of a certain demographic of folks who watch my videos. But I still think the way out of this is a matriarchy. I think that obviously that trifecta of oppression, capitalism, the patriarchy, and white supremacy has gotten us into this mess. And I think women will get us out of this mess. I think a matriarchy can get us out of this mess. And in particular, if it is capitalism, white supremacy, and the patriarchy, what about an anti-capitalist Black woman or women to get us out of this? I'm not saying it's the job of Black women to fix all of the problems that white men have inflicted on American society. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying, why don't we look at some of those socialist women who are putting, not just socialist, but also just like progressive women who are putting working class people first, putting children first, and putting communities, community care, people care first, and see what they're saying, what they're moving, how the electorate is leaning into their messaging and supporting them. And then also how those in power are responding, because I think it's always very, very telling when you see the way that the establishment reacts. I think that can help guide you, right? I think it can help guide all of us in knowing what the kinds of moves are that we need to be making. The establishment is freaking out over a candidate or freaking out over a platform, then that's a green flag for that candidate. That's a green flag for that policy position. We just saw Democratic socialist Angie Nixon win her primary in Florida, and I have been a big fan of hers for a while. You may remember that she was arrested for protesting Ron DeSantis, basically doing like a sit-in. He had her arrested. You may be aware of all of her tremendous advocacy for Floridians and for democracy. And so to see her win her primary, you guys.
If wanting your neighbor to avoid their insulin is radical, then call me a radical. If believing a mother shouldn't have to work 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads is extreme, then call me extreme. But where I come from, okay, right here in Duval County, these things are not radical. That's right. They're not extreme. This is just basic human decency. It's caring for our neighbors. And I don't know about you, but I was taught to love my neighbors. That's what guides me. Some folks like Ashley Moody like to claim the mantle of morality, yet their actions tell a very different story. But we put actions behind our words. So Ashley Moody can call it whatever she wants. She can call us whatever she wants. But in November, she will call me senator.
Okay, I don't want to get too swoony. It's hard not to with that acceptance speech. I understand that Angie is a great orator, but she's also just a tremendously conscientious and skilled legislator. And now, obviously, as she's won her primary, she's making the rounds on corporate media because she's campaigning to win the Senate seat in the general election. And before I show you some of those clips and talk about them, because I think that it's really telling to see the way that members of corporate media are treating her, a Black woman DSA candidate, I first want to back up just a second, because corporate Democrats have already been coming for her. We've seen the Third Way actively working against DSA candidates. We see establishment Democrats, including that cohort of like 13 of them that signed their pro-capitalism pledge, that are really, really freaked out by DSA folks. They're leaning real hard into the Islamophobia when it comes to Abdul El-Sayed and it comes to Hassan Piker, a Twitch streamer who is campaigning for folks, right? But they can't do that with Angie Nixon. I've actually been watching them struggle to figure out what their angle is against her. We're going to watch an interview in a second that highlights that. But when we're looking at corporate Democrats, right? She ran in the primary against Alexander Vindman, who is a a refugee, essentially, an immigrant, a member of the military. He was targeted by Donald Trump. He's incredibly pro-Israel. He takes corporate money. And so you're really seeing that establishment and DSA match up, right? And obviously DSA won in that race, even though he outspent her. I saw some numbers saying 10-1. I saw another analysis that said that he and the kind of PACs and money that supported his campaign outspent her about 25-1. Yet the people saw her message, her platform. They found her a compelling candidate who has put herself, her freedom on the line to advocate for folks in Florida, right? And they're like, we want this gal over here. We want her. And Vindman, right after, just like Haley Stevens did with Abdul El-Sayed, Vindman got right behind Angie Nixon. He put out tweets that was like, hey, I'm all in. I'm backing her campaign. I support her. Folks who voted for me, you need to support her campaign. Now you need to vote for her in November. I just want to say thank you to Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, because this is what we need to do. We need to come together. The vote blue no matter who folks need to put their money where their mouth is, right? And that's exactly what we're seeing from Vindman. He is telling the folks who backed him, hey, we have to back the Democratic nominee. This is how our system works. We get to exercise our voice, our vote on so many different levels when it comes really early in the process to mobilizing people, to getting behind a grassroots candidate, when we have the primary, and then when we have the general. But we all have to come together as a united coalition, even if we don't agree on every single issue. And we've seen the Democratic establishment be like, all y'all who are more progressive, you need to get with the party and vote with us, even though you didn't get the candidate that you wanted. And so often we see that it doesn't go both ways. So when Vindman and Haley Stevens both got behind more progressive candidates, a progressive in Michigan and a DSA candidate in Florida, I'm like, this is good. I want to give people their flowers when they do the right thing. I voted for Kamala Harris. I'm going to vote for Tina Kotek for governor in Oregon in November, even though I really don't want to, because I understand that purity politics doesn't work. I understand that it's our job to get involved at every stage. It's our civic duty to get involved at every stage and not to wait until the general. And sometimes we don't get who we want in the general, but when our choices are literal fascists trying to destroy democracy, or folks who we are, aligned in some ways and misaligned and have disagreements in other ways, then we have to have that coalition that is allied against fascism. And so to see corporate Democrats who are willing to do that, I think is really refreshing. Okay, but now back to Angie and the kind of matriarchal leadership that prioritizes children, communities, relationships, sustainability, equity, justice, healthcare, a good standard of living for all of us. I want to show you how she's being treated in the media. And not just because it highlights the obvious agenda of corporate media and makes it really clear who's funding them, but because it really shows the integrity, authenticity, and just like really appealing platform that Nixon puts forward, and also her appeal as a candidate, as a leader, as a public servant.
Why join the DSA if you disagree with various parts of their platform? Does it not just become a distraction from your own campaign and your own agenda?
You all are the only ones that are distracted. I'm actually going out talking to voters about the things that matter to them. And so we should make sure that we're pivoting to the right conversations. The fact remains that there are people who are dying because they don't have access to quality health care. Meanwhile, Ashley Moody voted to end the ACA subsidies. As I stated, nearly 300,000 people fell off the Affordable Care Act rolls. There are people who are dying because they don't have access to health care. Also, the fact that Ashley Moody is corrupt, right? She's corrupt. She allowed $10 million that was supposed to go towards the most medically needy kids to be diverted because they wanted to defeat 2 citizen-led ballot initiatives. The status quo is broken. People are losing their minds right now and taking their lives and even taking their children's lives. And the people at the top want to stoke division and want to push this hateful rhetoric. At the end of the day, I have always been about the people of Florida, which is why my campaign is Angie for Florida. I want people to no longer just survive. They deserve to thrive and flourish.
Very quickly, because I know that you have to go. Congressman Jolly says he is a capitalist. Would you call yourself a capitalist, or do you reject capitalism?
I live in a capitalistic society. I'm a small business owner. I like to make money. I don't see what the problem is.
So are you a capitalist?
I'm a capitalist who believes that we need some strong regulation.
Okay. All right. And will you campaign with David Jolly? Are you planning to campaign with him?
I don't have a problem campaigning with anyone on the Democratic ticket that is for actually having quality health care, that's for actually expanding access to universal child care. I want people who want to improve the quality of life for all Floridians. I'm sorry, I am still operating on a minimum amount of sleep, but I am out here just, talking to people. I'm super excited. Look, y'all, it doesn't have to be this way. I believe that hardworking, everyday people should get to shape what our communities look like and what our economies look like instead of this billionaire class that is actually running the show. I'm ready to put the power back in the hands of the
See what I mean about needing a matriarchy?